What's going on, guys? I'm currently dying right now. My stomach kind of hurts, but I must suffer for the art. So we're here at Intramuros, which was back in the day. So we are... Oh, I wasn't even recording. So we are here in Intramuros, the old walled city of Manila. Back in the day, this is where this is the old Spanish walled city. All the powerful Spanish people, the religious, educational establishments were all here. This was the place to be. This was the seat of Spanish power, influence, and the Spanish government back in the days of the Spanish colonial era. It is a beautiful walled city with a lot of ruined buildings, some beautifully restored buildings, and churches. Intramuros literally means within the walls in Spanish. Basically, if you lived outside of the walls, that is the Filipinos, Spanish, Indians, Muslims, anyone who wasn't Spanish, they were considered extramuros. I'm also joined here by Yanbi, finally, who was out sick the whole day for the past 2 days. I mean, so was I for 1 day, but she's finally here. How are you feeling?
Like 90% recovered.
I'm not fully recovered. I have a confession to make. Like, this has always annoyed me about Fort Santiago, but the main gate, which is just over here, doesn't align with the bridge leading to the gate, nor does it align with the main plaza leading up to it. It's like my inner OCD kicking in. Look how misaligned that is. Oh. So in the beginning, before any of this was here, was a simple wooden palisade fort where Fort Santiago is now. The Kapampangan and the Tagalog tribes back in the day, I think before the Spanish came, were ruled by Raja Suleiman. Obviously after the Spanish arrived, they conquered the place and established this, which is Fort Santiago, the main fortification of Intramuros. But of course, you can't just build a fort in a very strategic location in the mouth of the Pasig River without making some enemies. Fort Santiago has been through everything. Dozens and dozens of pirate attacks, invasions by the Dutch, the British, Chinese pirates, and of course, like everything, like most things in Intramuros, was obviously devastated by the Battle of Manila in 1945 in World War II. It is also here in Fort Santiago where the Philippine national hero Jose Rizal was imprisoned before his tragic execution in the morning of the 30th December 1898. Funnily enough, he was executed by no other than 8 Filipino gunmen, with 8 Spanish gunmen standing behind them just in case they couldn't get the job done. But after the Philippine Revolution against the Spanish, his remains were later recovered and moved to the site where they lay now in the Rizal Memorial at Luneta Park. Next stop is the Manila Cathedral. So welcome to the Manila Cathedral. It is beautiful in here. The interior is gorgeous. This is actually the 8th reincarnation of the cathedral. It has been destroyed and rebuilt a total of 7 times up to this 8th one right here. So the first one was destroyed by a fire, and then the 2nd to 6th ones were destroyed by earthquakes. The 7th, most recent one, was sadly destroyed by the Battle of Manila, like most things in Intramuros. And what you have here now is the 8th structure, rebuilt in the 1950s. The 7th cathedral actually used to be much more ornately designed than this, as with a lot of Spanish churches of that era. But obviously, sadly, after World War II, Philippines didn't have much funds to rebuild with this. Although this cathedral is still beautiful, it is not as near as the 7th cathedral. Wow, you can really feel the peace. So we are here at Casa Manila Museum. This actually isn't an authentic Spanish colonial house. This is actually a replica built by Emil de Marcos back in the 70s, but you gotta give it to them. It is beautiful here. Yeah, I reckon Casa Manila gives a pretty good insight onto how nobles living in the Philippines would live back in the day. Really opulent, extravagantly designed homes. So what they tried to do here in Casa Manila is recreate a traditional Spanish colonial Bahay na Kanto. It is beautiful on the inside. I wasn't allowed to video inside, but there's so much beautiful furniture there. It was such a cool experience. A lot of authentic, really old Filipino furniture, furnishings, and interior design. It was a really cool experience. Fun fact, this green space that surrounds Intramuros, it used to be the moat that surrounded it back in the day of the Spanish, obviously to protect against invaders and whatnot. But obviously as the Americans came, the moat became obsolete and it became decrepit, filled with sewage and garbage. It was nasty. And then they decided to convert it into a golf course, what it is now today. It became the Philippines' first golf course, actually. To be honest, the Japanese occupation and World War II have not been kind to Intramuros over the years. The Japanese converted what was a lot of ammunition storages and barracks into a lot of torture prisons and internment camps. Obviously, as you know, 1945, the battle for the liberation of Manila wiped out the entire city. It destroyed 95% of the buildings that were standing here. Most notably though, the San Agustin Church was still standing, miraculously enough, and it is now a World UNESCO Heritage Site. Over the years, restoration of this once beautiful city has been slow, controversial, and sometimes just plain wrong. Like what once used to be some beautiful Spanish colonial buildings are now some of them some pretty ugly modernly designed buildings. BF condominiums. This walled city is a city of contrast, you know, from the beautiful restored buildings to the old ruins, the lavishly decorated homes, as well as the slums that reside in the middle of the city. I'm getting a bit too rambly and I don't really know what to say, but I'll sum it up. I loved Intramuros as a kid. I mean, I still do, but it's got a long way to go. There's so many more structures that need to be rehabilitated, renovated, and restored. It smells in here, I gotta be honest. And there's a lot of poverty in here too. The streets are still a bit dirty, but I feel like there's still hope, you know? There's a lot of growing interest in this area. A lot of the young people are much more interested than the old people in this area, in the history of the Philippines, the Philippine culture, and stuff like that. Man, one day I really hope to see this place on par with the likes of Cartagena in Colombia. I would love to see that. Man, if you are a tourist, you have to visit Intramuros. Not only is it the heart and soul of Manila, but without Intramuros, there might not have been a Manila at all.